A tool needed to assess the environmental, the social, and the economic impacts of a development project before it is implemented. So it is nothing but a tool to assess the environmental, the economic, and the social impact of a development project before it is implemented. The whole idea behind the EIA is to have a process in place, a kind of a check system to assess that a development project or any modernization project which the government thinks or which a private party wants to implement is environmentally sound, and that it is in adherence to or in cognition to and can coexist with the socio-economic parameters, the human health parameters, as well as the environmental parameters of the place at which the project is going to be implemented. The whole concept of EIA started and has at its backbone the concept of sustainable development. So anything which we talk about sustainable development and the time by which EIA has come into India, if you look at the background, 1992, we have the climate summit, or what is called the Rio summit. 1993 is the year of the indigenous people by the United Nations. 1994, 27 January, we come up with the EIA notification. Now, if you look at the history of EIA across the globe, the first country, of course, to come up with a concept like this was the United States of America, which in 1969 came up with an environmental act called the NEPA. Now, this National Environmental Policy which they adopted was more or less something akin to the EIA. And what they called it was the National Environmental Policy Act, or the NEPA. They called it the NEPA. The National Environmental Policy Act, 1969, USA. Following the steps of USA, other developing countries also promulgated EIAs, and one of the leading countries among the developing world was Colombia. Colombia decided to use EIA way back in 1974, followed by Philippines, which came up with this program in 1976. And then India came up in what is called 1976-77, when the Planning Commission told the Department of Science and Technology to review river valley projects, because that is all that we were dealing with at that point of time in terms of development, to review river valley projects in terms of reference of the environmental impact that they were having. At the same time, by 1994, this had extended to any project which was brought within the purview of what is called the Public Investment Board. So by or before 1994, all river valley projects, children, I want you to know that every statement that I make is a factual statement and it should be noted, because all these facts have been taken from various sources. So I will not be able to give you a write-up on it or pinpoint that I've taken this from here. Of course, in the end, before I conclude, I'll let you know wherever I picked up the information from, but I'm not making haywire statements. Each statement is a fact. So kindly note it accordingly. So before 1994, River Valley projects, and any project which was put up to what was called the Public Investment Board. Public Investment Board. So we have traced the history of EIA to the USA, 1969, followed by Colombia and Philippines, 1974-76. We come back to India, 1976 to 77, when the Planning Commission asked the Department of Science and Technology to review river valley projects. and then any other project which comes up to the Public Investment Board for clearance comes under the purview of the EIA. But a formal statutory promulgation, and this is the word that you have to use, a formal statutory promulgation of the EIA happened on what is called the 27th of January 1994, when the EIA, under the Environment Protection Act of 1986 was promulgated, making it obligatory for any projects which were going to affect the environment to be screened through a process of EIA. So first and foremost, an EIA is a green law. It's a green law. So far, so good? So the EIA is a green law. A green law is meant for environmental protection. So EIA becomes a green law in 1994 for India under the Environment Protection Act of 1986. And in its Schedule 1, what does it state? It states that any project of modernization or expansion of any development project will require clearance from certain agencies to assess that it does not damage the environment. Now, what does the EIA in its Section 3 says? In Section 3 of the EIA, that is the Environment Impact Assessment Promulgation, which has come into being, it says that any, and this is why it will be important when we look at the draft 2020 of the EIA, that is why I'm mentioning Section 3 beforehand. In Section 3, it is clearly stated that any development project, before it is cleared by the EIA, mandates that it protects the environment too. It is beneficial for the environment. So these two factors you must keep in mind, that Section 3 of the EIA says that any development project which is or project of modernization which has to be put into place must not only protect the environment but also be beneficial for the environment before it can be considered to be implemented. Now let us go through the definition of the EIA once again. Like I told you, it was by the United Nations Environment Program. It is defined as a tool to identify the environmental, the social, and the economic impact of a project prior to its decision making, prior to deciding whether we will implement the project or not. It is a process of evaluating the environmental impacts of a proposed project or development activity, taking into account the related social, economic, cultural, and health human impacts. And that is why the EIA becomes very important in the COVID situation. The likely questions which are going to come, and I think EIA has come every alternate year. And so you have about 10 to 12 questions on the EIA. Of course, ever since the draft 2020 has come, more questions are related to it. So we will do the draft 2020 in a more detailed manner. But repeatedly, the questions are, what is the concept of EIA? Why is it important? How do you define EIA? If you were made to conduct an EIA for a development project, how would you go about it? And so keep on learning the definitions and the concept for you to understand. If clarity exists there, you will be able to write any question which comes. So like I like to go back that any tool which is needed to assess the evaluation of a development project vis-a-vis the existing socio-cultural relations, the human health aspects, and of course the environmental parameters which exist there to decide whether any project can be implemented is what is called the EIA. So when you are doing the EIA, not only do you look at what are the positive impacts, more important becomes the negative or the adverse impacts of development which are going to take place. Why is the concept embedded in sustainable development? Because at one point of time, there was development on one side and there was indigenous people on the other. And then suddenly, when the concept of sustainable development came about after the Stockholm Convention, it was decided that actually indigenous people and development need not be at two opposite sides of the dimension. They can both be integrated together. And so development became sustainable, whereas we take care of the environment, not only to fulfill our needs today, but to allow to the future generation to fulfill their needs also. So the minute we plan for the future, we talk about sustainable development, and in the same parameter, we speak about the EIA. So when your answer starts, you will say that EIA is one of the parameters of sustainable development. One. Two, it is a green law. Three, that it has a statutory backing of the Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Four, that in section 3, it promulgates that not only does the environment need to be protected for the clearance of a project, it should actually better the environment or should in some way improve the environmental impact before it can be considered to be implemented. Now, what is it that makes this the environmental impact assessment journey complete for India? So this happened in 1994, and then again in 2006, there was an amendment to it, and it came to be known as the EIA notification of 2006. Now, in 2006, what are the areas which were being covered under the environmental impact assessment? It included all river valley projects, all thermal power projects, all infrastructure, road highways, ports and harbors, airports and industries, and even small industrial units called like electroplating or foundry needed to get an EIA clearance. This was the scenario till 2006. So in 2006, two things happened simultaneously. One, the government decided to delegate the clearance aspects or share clearance aspects with the state, and doing that, it categorized the EIA projects into three categories. So they became two. The two important fallouts of 2006 was it delegated to the states or involved the states in EIA clearance. One was that, and two was it categorized EIAs into A, B1 and B2. So A became centrally controlled by the national government or the union government. This required the approval of the union government, and there are two agencies involved in it, which I will be speaking to you later on. So A category came to the union government or to the center, and B and B1, B2 came to the state. Then in 2006, it said that B2 category requires no clearance from the EIA. So the first dilution to the EIA happens in 2006 alone, when the EIA clearances were categorized depending upon the amount or area or built up area that was to be utilized. So both in terms of capacity as well as inputs. These were the two criteria by which the EIA projects were categorized. One was capacity, how much, and input, what would be the cost of the project. Although the cost of the project is not mentioned, but they have put various parameters in it. Like, for example, they say that for clearance up to the state level, the built up area for any building should be 150,000 per square meter. If that is the criteria, then the EIA clearance for the building will go to the state. So these were the parameters along which the categorization took place. We will talk about the categorization a little later. Let me go and tell you about the process of EIA. So EIA is a cyclic process. It's a cyclic process. And what does it involve? As a cyclic process, it assumes participation. As a cyclic process, it involves participation. It involves transparency. It involves transparency. It involves certainty. It involves credibility. And it involves cost effectiveness. Cost effectiveness. And it involves flexibility. मेरा सर्कल थोड़ा छोटा बन गया है, आप थोड़ा बड़ा बना लीजिएगा. That is not a problem. The idea behind this is taken from Natural Nature Global. That is the site from which this diagram has been taken. And I found it to be very interesting because, one, it is not mentioned in any of the notes which the so-called institutes have promulgated all over the place. And two, because it does explain the process of EIA very well. When it talks about participation, it talks about the proponent of the project. It talks about the government. It talks about the people who are going to be affected by the project. That is the level of participation. The transparency, the manner in which the EIA is conducted, who are the stakeholders, whether they are all represented in the project or not, that is your transparency. Then certainty that what you are proposing is going to actually happen. And that is what is based on your assessment. So whatever you claim in your assessment is going to happen with at least 99% certainty. Then credibility of whatever you are saying, because your level of knowledge or your level of analysis has been to that level where you can say with surety or with authority, yes, that this is what is going to happen as a result of this development project or as a result of the modernization of this project. Then cost effectiveness, we need to cut costs. After all, money is a perishable commodity. And then flexibility, that if suppose that you have taken one course of action, but that course of action is not the one which is justified in the present scenario, you can always change and shift back to another strategy. And it has to be cost effective so that the project can be implemented. So there is participation, there is transparency, there is certainty, there is credibility, there is cost effectiveness and flexibility to move whenever you feel that the course of action which you've adopted is not the right one. Now, in the traditional sense, and I'm repeating it here, in the traditional scheme of things, EIA involves the following. It involves first the step of screening. क्योंकि 2006 में इस प्रोसेस को शॉर्ट किया गया था, इस वजह से आपको ये मैं बता रही हूँ कि ये इसका ट्रेडिशनल वे है. तो सबसे पहले होता है क्या? स्क्रीनिंग. पहले आप स्क्रीनिंग में क्या देखते हैं? स्केल ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट, which category it will go to, so basically whether it will need an EIA or not is what is going to be seen here. Whether statutory clearance is required or not. Whether statutory clearance is required or not. Clearance is required or not is what you are going to see here. That is your first process of screening. Then comes the second one, which is called your scoping. Now, scoping में क्या होता है? आप देखते हैं कि आपकी area of influence क्या है? What is the area that you are going to cover under this modernization or under this development project? So, scoping में आप देखते हैं area of impact, area of impact. What is your mitigation possibility? Mitigation का क्या मतलब होता है? Mitigation का मतलब to lessen. Mitigation possibilities and need for monitoring. What is it that you need to monitor or need to evaluate? That is your scoping. So scoping will include everything, your area of impact. Let me give you an example. For example, you want to set up a hydropower project near a tiger reserve. So if you're wanting to set up a hydroelectric project near a tiger reserve, there has to be a river which must be in close proximity or might be running through the tiger reserve. Like for example, they are trying to link the two rivers, that is Kane and Chambal, in the Panna Tiger Reserve, which according to which large areas of the land are going to be submerged. But because there are some 20 to 30 villages in Bundelkhand area which are being exposed to increased drought conditions over a long period of time, and therefore they say that this interlinkages of rivers is very important. Environmentally, it is one of the most damaging projects which India will be implemented should it come through, and the government of Madhya Pradesh is committed to it. So we are no one to express our opinion otherwise. But if this was happening, then your screening would involve first, so how much is the area? It is going to be a hydro project with more than 25,000 kilowatts of hydroelectricity production. Then it comes in category A. Otherwise, it would be in category B2 and would require no clearance. Yes, that is the level to which EIA is taken seriously in India. Anyways, so being a big hydroelectric project, it would come in category A. That is when you go for the screening part. Now you come to the scoping part. What is the area of impact? Your area of impact is both the drainage system, the river drainage system of the Kane River, of the Chambal River, and the entire Tiger Reserve, plus the villages in Bundelkhand area and those villages or the buffer and core areas which are going to get submerged as a result of the interlinkages of these two rivers. That will be your scope of that will be scoping. Along with it, it will include other measures that you need to think to mitigate or to lessen whatever problems are going to be created as a result of this development project. Now, after scoping comes collection of baseline data. Collection of baseline data. जो ये कलेक्शन ऑफ बेसलाइन डेटा है, इसके संदर्भ में मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगी कि जो हमारा मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट एंड फॉरेस्ट है, it was earlier called the Ministry of Environment and Forest, but now it is called the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. So this Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change Ministry had way back in 1982 had come up with what is called the Environment Information System. So at that point of time, it was only the Ministry of Environment and Forests. तब तो ये Environment and Forestry की ministry थी 1982 में. And it came up with something which is called the Environment Information System. Environment Information System. Now this NVS, ENVS, this Environment Information System, which has been put into place, collects information, it stores information, and disseminates information. So, when you're looking for baseline data, somewhere you will also link it to the ENVS. So be clear about this concept. When we had done forests also, I had done, when we were doing climate change, I referred to this concept at that point of time. I don't know how many of you remember. Anyways, this is your environment information system to which people who are engaging in EI or consultants of EIA often go back and look at the data which is available here. So After screening and scoping comes what is called the collection of baseline data. So you've had screening, you've had scoping, and now you've got the baseline data in which you have taken care of, you have used the services of the environment information system. After collection of baseline data, which will include, of course, the status of the people, the socio-economic parameters, and obviously the ecosystem which exists, the biodiversity of the area, okay, and the health parameters. तो वहां ट्राइबल्स रहते हैं कि नहीं, या इंडिजिनस पीपल रहते हैं कि नहीं, और वहां बहुत सारे ट्राइबल्स रहते हैं, तो उनका क्या होगा, उनके हेल्थ पैरामीटर्स क्या है, वहां से वो किस प्रकार से रहते हैं, व्हाट इज द लेवल ऑफ लिविंग, आर देयर बिलो द पॉवर्टी लाइन, आर दे प्रोग्रेसिव, do they have an educational background or not, are they able to understand that this kind of a project which will come into being will although submerge their areas and they will be displaced as a result of this area, as a result of the project, but it will be for the larger good. Are they able to appreciate that or not? Will all become a part of your baseline data. Then you have your impact predictions. अब impact predictions में आपके पास क्या क्या होगा? Impact predictions will include both positive and negative impacts. Both positive and negative impacts, reversible, irreversible, whether they are going to be reversible. अब अगर एक बार जमीन चली गई पानी के नीचे तो irreversible हो गया. So whether they are irreversible or reversible, ये पैरामीटर आप देखेंगे under impact predictions. So पहले आपकी स्क्रीनिंग हो गई, फिर स्कोपिंग हो गई, फिर बेसलाइन डेटा हो गया, अब आपका हो गया इम्पैक्ट प्रिडिक्शंस, जिसके अंदर आप देखेंगे कि इम्पैक्ट पॉजिटिव है कि नेगेटिव है, रिवर्सिबल है कि इररिवर्सिबल है, एंड अलोंग विद दैट यू विल फाइंड आउट वेदर इट इज टेम्पररी or permanent. So these are the parameters along which you will judge the impact, whether it's positive or negative, whether it's reversible or irreversible, whether it is temporary or permanent. These are the areas of your review. Now then, after this, you come to what is called the assessment. Assessment आपका सबसे important part होता है EIA का. Assessment of alternatives. अगर आप इसको नहीं करते और कुछ और करते हैं, मान लीजिए कि आप इंटरलिंक इन दोनों रिवर्स को टाइगर रिजर्व छोड़ के करते हैं, मतलब लोअर डाउन इन द कोर्स ऑफ द रिवर, if you try to link the two, is it possible or not? Will it bring about lesser changes? Will it lead to less flooding of the areas that we are talking about? तो ये सब आप assessment of alternatives में करते हैं. Delineation of mitigation, आप किस प्रकार से जो लोग इससे अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं उनकी प्रॉब्लम्स को सॉल्व करेंगे या कम करेंगे, तो वो डिलिनिएशन ऑफ मिटिगेशन भी इसी में आएगा. डिलिनिएशन ऑफ मिटिगेशन भी इसी में आएगा. एंड द EIA रिपोर्ट, एंड द EIA रिपोर्ट, ये असेसमेंट का आपका पार्ट हो गया. इसमें आप सारे ऑल्टरनेटिव्स को कंपेयर करेंगे, प्रोजेक्ट के लोकेशन को, आप कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्ट कर रहे हैं, क्या ऑल्टरनेटिव टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्ट करके किसी भी प्रकार से आप सिचुएशन को सेव कर सकते हैं क्या. So let me talk about a development project of the setting up of a resort in a village called Kankoli. Kankoli is a small village in a very biodiversified, rich area near Goa. इट्स अ स्मॉल फिशिंग विलेज। यहाँ डिसाइड हुआ कि एक रिजॉर्ट बनाया जाएगा। तो स्क्रीनिंग के लिए ऑफ कोर्स इट वाज डिसाइडेड इट रिक्वायर्स, बिकॉज ये बायोडाइवर्सिटी में बहुत रिच एरिया था एंड इट वाज अ वर्जिन एरिया जहाँ पे कोई डेवलपमेंट एक्टिविटी अभी तक नहीं हुई थी। So it required to go through the EIA process. While going through the EIA process, screening में it went to the state level, so the government of Goa was investigating or looking at the project. Scoping में आपकी पूरी कनकौली फिशिंग विलेज आ गई, along with जो लोगों ने फिशिंग विलेज को छोड़ दिया था क्योंकि ज्यादा करके वहां पे कोई एम्प्लॉयमेंट की अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं थी। तो आपने देखा कि आपका क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा इस रिजॉर्ट को बनाने से। आप जो है सोशल इकोनॉमिक पैरामीटर्स जो थे सब लोगों के वो बदलेंगे, एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट होगा, तो जो लोग माइग्रेट करके सिटी में वो वापस विलेज में आएंगे। देयर विल बी अ फ्रेश लीज ऑफ लाइफ फॉर द पीपल इन दैट एरिया। बट अलोंग विद दैट, जब भी आप कोई भी चीज को कार्पेट करते हैं, लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू मेक अ बिल्डिंग, कार्पेट इज यूजिंग सीमेंट and displacing the natural biodiversity of that region. तो impact में आपके जो रिवर सिस्टम्स है वहां पे या जो कोस्टल शोर लाइन है वो अफेक्ट होगी, वहां पे ड्रेजिंग होगी, वहां पे सीमेंट का यूज होगा, उससे वाटर का पोल्यूशन होगा। क्योंकि जब बिल्डिंग अप के टाइम पर आप वहां पर किसी भी प्रकार की मशीन यूज करेंगे तो एयर पोल्यूशन भी होगा। ये सब आपके स्कोपिंग में आ जाएगा। उसके बाद आपका क्या आएगा, बेसलाइन डेटा। बेसलाइन डेटा में ये पता चला कि वहां पे या तो बुढ़े लोग रहते थे और या तो बहुत जवान लोग रहते थे। जो मिडिल एज ग्रुप वाले लोग थे वो सब माइग्रेट कर गए थे सिटी में एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल वर बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन। तो यहाँ पे एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटी जनरेट करने के लिए ये रिजॉर्ट बहुत ही ज्यादा जरूरी था। उसके बाद इम्पैक्ट प्रिडिक्शंस में ये देखा गया कि पॉजिटिवली तो आप यहाँ पर डेवलपमेंट ला रहे हैं, नेगेटिवली आप एनवायरमेंट को इम्पैक्ट करेंगे, वाटर को पोल्यूट करेंगे। वाटर जो पोल्यूशन होगा वो इरिवर्सिबल टू सम एक्सटेंट रहेगा, बट बाय एंड लार्ज रिवर्सिबल रहेगा। कैसे, आप वहां पे एक प्रॉपर स्विच ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट लगाइए। आप ये देखिए कि आप जो है पूरा कंस्ट्रक्शन रिजॉर्ट का नीचे जमीन में ना करके स्टिल्ट्स पे, स्टिल्ट्स मीन्स गिविंग अ वुडन बेस टू द रिजॉर्ट। तो अगर आप स्टिल्ट्स पे करेंगे तो सारी जो आपकी कंस्ट्रक्शन है वो जमीन से ऊपर हो जाएगी। अगर ऐसा हुआ तो आपकी बायोडाइवर्सिटी भी मेंटेन हो रहेगी। तो ये सारी चीजें आप इम्पैक्ट प्रिडिक्शंस में देखेंगे और फिर असेसमेंट करेंगे कि क्या रिजॉर्ट नहीं बनाते तो क्या होता और अगर बनाएंगे तो क्या होगा। तो बनाने से अगर XYZ चीजें हो रही हैं, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल बनाने से आप बाहर के लोग वापस आएंगे, विलेज में प्रोग्रेस होगी और जो यहाँ की शायद कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज थी उनको वापस फ्रेश लीज ऑफ एक लाइफ मिलेगी। तो इन सब चीजों को दिमाग में रखते हुए यू हैव नाउ डिसाइडेड दैट यू विल नाउ गो अहेड विद द project. I am giving you this example so that you are able to understand the concept more easily. Then along with this mitigation plan, you have what is called the risk assessment. इतना सब कुछ करने पर भी आपके पास रिस्क क्या क्या है। इसमें आपके पास हजार्ड की प्रोबेबिलिटी क्या है। तो हजार्ड की प्रोबेबिलिटी कनकौली प्रोजेक्ट में बहुत लो थी, उसमें कोई हजार्ड इन्वॉल्व नहीं था अदर देन पोल्यूशन। और अगर आपने उस बात को कंट्रोल कर लिया तो द प्रोजेक्ट कुड हैव बीन इम्प्लीमेंटेड। तो दिस इज बाय एंड लार्ज हाउ यू गो अबाउट योर the EIA project and what and how it happens. Now, who are the stakeholders in the EIA? तो ये सारे आपके प्रोसीजर्स हैं EIA के। जब 2006 की नोटिफिकेशन आई तो इन सारे प्रोसीजर्स को सिर्फ 4 स्टेप में कंक्लूड कर दिया गया। When I will talk about 2006, I will be telling you that. Now we'll talk about who are the stakeholders in the EIA process. Stakeholders means who are the parties involved in the EIA process. तो EIA प्रोसेस में फर्स्ट जो प्रोपोनेंट्स हैं जिन्होंने उस प्रोजेक्ट को प्रपोज किया है, तो प्रोपोनेंट्स कैन बी लाइक आपका जो भी सेंट्रल विस्टा वाला प्रोजेक्ट आ रहा है दिल्ली एरिया में जो हमारे लिए नया पार्लियामेंट बनाएगा, तो दैट विस्टा प्रोजेक्ट इज नाउ बीइंग इम्प्लीमेंटेड बाय द टाटास। तो प्रोपोनेंट्स कौन हुए, टाटास हुए। सो लाइक दैट who those who propose the project will be the proponents. Then there will be an environmental consultant. There will be an environmental consultant. Then who prepares the EIA on behalf of the project proponent. Then there is something called the Pollution Control Board. There is something called the Pollution Control Board. So you have a proponent, you have the environmental consultant who will be preparing the EIA project report on behalf of the proponent. There is something called the Pollution Control Board, and then which can be of the state or the national level depending upon category A, B, state or center. Okay. Then along with this will be the public, which has the right to express its opinion. Public at large, which those people who are getting affected by the project. So the public will express their opinion regarding the project. I hope so far there is no confusion regarding what is being taught. Is everybody clear about what is being spoken? Okay, stay with me because this is not very lengthy, but slightly lengthy. So, but it's very simple. So don't worry, it is going in stage wise. And when the question comes, you'll be able to answer it without any problem. So the stakeholders in the EIA are the proponents, the environmental consultant, the pollution control board, the public, which is going to be affected by it. They have a right to express their opinion. And then what we have called the impact assessment agency. The impact assessment agency, which at the center and state are different. Okay. And the regional center of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Okay, so these are the impact assessment agencies which are going to be part of the regional center of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. They are the ministry appoints this impact assessment agency from time to time, and that is how the assessments, the EIA report is assessed by the agency which is appointed by this ministry. Now we go into the categories of 2006. These are the stakeholders. Okay. Now, in 2006, it was decided that all the EIAs will go into two categories, that is A and B. The A category, I've already told, the national level appraisal EIAs, and category B are the state level appraisals. So you have a category A, the national level, and you have a category B, which is of the state level. Now in category B, you have B1 and B2. These are your categories. And who are the people who are going to assess this? Like I just now told you, there is what is called at the A level. At the A level, you have what is called the impact assessment agency, and you have what is called the expert appraisal committee. Expert appraisal committee. These are the two agencies which scrutinize the EIA report. The impact assessment agency and the expert appraisal committee. These are at the center. When they become a part of the state Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change appoints them, and then they are known as what is called the SEIAA. SEIAA is your state level environment impact assessment. Okay? And impact assessment authority. Okay? Please have these agencies with clarity. The state level environment impact assessment authority. And the other one is called the SEAC. All right? Which is called the state level expert. State level expert appraisal committee. Appraisal committee. So you have at level A what is first called the impact assessment agency, and similarly for the state you have a state level impact assessment committee. You have an impact assessment agency, IAA, at the center. And you have the SEIAA at the state level environmental impact assessment authority. And you have the SEAC, the state level expert appraisal committee. Similarly, you have the appraisal committee, the expert appraisal committee, or the EAC at the center. Please note down the details of the IAA and the EAC. They are a bit of a tongue twister. थोड़ा सा उनको pronounce करने में थोड़ा time लगता है, but एक बार आप समझ जाएंगे तो आपको आ जाएगा. State level environment impact assessment authority, state level expert appraisal committee. Center में assessment agency, impact assessment agency और expert appraisal committee. ये दोनों हो गए आपके categorization. अब इन्होंने ये कह दिया है कि आपको जो है in this process you do not need you're only going to be dealing with screening and scoping and assessment and report. That is what they said कि अब आपके पास सिर्फ 4 stages का आपको करना है और बाकी आपको इसमें कोई stage involved नहीं करना. That is what they have said. Okay, I will come back to the 4 steps which now they have said that they will do. But for the time being, let's just go into what is the mandatory clearance under these categories. So I just mentioned कि जो project है such as mining, thermal power plants, river valley, infrastructure, road, highway, port, harbor, airports, and industries including small electroplating of foundry units. ये सबको environment clearance की जरूरत है. This was according to the EIA 2006 notification. तो category A में जितने भी mandatory environment clearance है, उनको screening process की जरूरत ही नहीं है. इनको पता है कि अगर इस एरिया का इस संदर्भ का डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट है तो वो कैटेगरी ए में जाएगा ही जाएगा. जो कैटेगरी बी होती थी उसमें B1, B2 हो गया. B1 को स्क्रीनिंग, स्कोपिंग, असेसमेंट सब करना है और B2 को एग्जेम्प्ट कर दिया गया है एनवायरमेंट क्लियरेंस से. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू देम दे आर अ लिस्ट ऑफ डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स which require no EIA. And that is why I said in 2006 was the first dilution of this green law. Now, in 2020, there comes a draft notification of the EIA. When it comes as a draft notification of the EIA, let us first understand that EIA as an environmental law, what does it presume? अगर ये एक environmental law है, तो environmental law किस पैरामीटर पर बेस होता है? Environmental law के principles क्या होते हैं? First is precautionary principle. और क्योंकि ये एनवायरमेंटल लॉ है इसलिए इसके संदर्भ में ये एप्लीकेबल है। तो ये पहले होता है आपका प्रिकॉशनरी प्रिंसिपल। आपका ये हो गया प्रिकॉशनरी प्रिंसिपल। फिर आपका हो गया प्रिवेंशन प्रिंसिपल। प्रिवेंशन प्रिंसिपल। फिर आपका हो गया पोल्यूटर पेज प्रिंसिपल। फिर हो गया आपका इंटीग्रेशन प्रिंसिपल। फिर आप हो गया पब्लिक पार्टिसिपेशन प्रिंसिपल। प्रिकॉशनरी प्रिंसिपल, जब भी आप कोई डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट इंप्लीमेंट करेंगे आप सारे प्रिकॉशंस लेके करेंगे। प्रिवेंशन प्रिंसिपल, जितनी हद तक हो सके आप स्टेटस को मेंटेन करने की कोशिश करेंगे इन टर्म्स ऑफ द एनवायरनमेंट। पोल्यूटर पेज प्रिंसिपल, अगर आपने किसी भी प्रकार का पोल्यूशन क्रिएट किया एज अ प्रोपोनेंट ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट यू हैव टू पे फॉर इट। इंटीग्रेशन प्रिंसिपल, at no point should the development project be motivated towards only a particular community or particular class. It should benefit the people at large and it should take all the affected parties on board. Public participation principle, there should be a public hearing on what is being promulgated or what is being propagated by the development project so that the people who are going to be affected by it have a voice in it. So once they have a voice in it, they will have an element of acceptance also. That is the idea. Okay, everybody's got this. So this is the meaning of the EIA, and any environmental law is based on these principles. Not only EIA, but any environmental law is based on these principles. So while we were doing the various stages of the EIA process, we stopped at what is called the risk assessment. Now, after risk assessment, there is something called the mitigation measures. Mitigation measures मतलब आप किस प्रकार से जो लोग अफेक्ट होते हैं उनके लिए आपके पास क्या पैकेज है, ये आप मिटिगेशन मेजर्स में प्रपोज करते हैं। आप किस प्रकार से कंट्रोल डैमेज की प्रक्रिया करेंगे, ये आपके मिटिगेशन मेजर्स में आता है। फिर आता है व्हाट इज कॉल्ड पब्लिक हियरिंग। इसमें जो लोग अफेक्ट होते हैं वो बताते हैं कि हम इस प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में क्या सोचते हैं और हमारी इससे क्या उम्मीद है। यदि आप हमें हमारी विलेज से निकाल देंगे बाहर तो आप हमें किस प्रकार का कॉम्पेंसेशन पैकेज देंगे, ये भी इसी के संदर्भ में आएगा। सो देयर इज अ पब्लिक हियरिंग इन विच पीपल put on paper or discuss with the proponents of the project. They have public meetings. They put in their queries through writing or on a site. Like now, this is age of development, so we use information technology. So they create a site which everybody goes and puts in their viewpoint of what they think about the project. That is your public hearing. And then there is what is called the decision making. Decision making, whether now the project is going to be implemented or not. If it is going to be implemented, the project in charge will take it forward with all that has been suggested. So whatever changes are to be made will be then done. Then monitoring and implementation of the environmental management plan. Monitoring and implementation of the environment management plan. Okay. So we went from screening the stages, screening, scoping, baseline data, assessment, risk assessment, mitigation measures, public hearing, decision making, and finally monitoring and implementation. These are the various stages through which the EIA process moves. Okay, so there is screening, scoping, baseline data, assessment, risk assessment, mitigation process, public hearing, decision making, monitoring, and implementation. And when you monitor and implement, earlier in 2006, you had to submit a 6-monthly report on how the project is progressing in front of both the assessing agencies, which I've spoken of previously. So this brings us to the various steps which are involved in the EIAs. And I've already told you that it is a green law, and being an environmental law, these are the things which are said to be required when you implement any environmental law. Now, when I said that in 2006, this 9-stage process was reduced to screening, scoping, public hearing, and appraisal. So that entire procedure was now brought down to these 4: screening, scoping, public hearing, and appraisal. So the 2006 EI notification basically diluted the EIA process. It decentralized the process of environmental impact assessment, giving responsibility to center and state, but more responsibility to the state. It categorized, the third point, it categorized all EIAs into 3 categories. Category A, mandatory for union level or union government clearance. Category B, 1, which is going to be done by the state. Category B2, which were exempted entirely from the category of EIA. Now, the categories which were considered, or the areas which were covered by the EIA 2006, included all infrastructure development projects, included all river valley projects, included all hydroelectric projects, and along with that, even projects like foundry and electroplating required environmental clearance. Having said that, now let us go into why do we need the EIA, or what is the objective of the EIA. So we need the EIA first. The need for EIA the first need for EIA is that all development projects have negative impacts or negative externalities. Any anthropogenic activity or any human activity will have an adverse impact on the environment. some positive impact also, but mostly negative impact. So in order to harmonize development activities with environmental concern, EIA is considered to be undertaken. So the need or the objective of the EIA is to ensure harmonization of development activity with environmental concern. Harmonize development activity with environmental concerns. Okay, that is the need for the EIA. Then it serves as an important procedure in decision-making process and promoting transparency and public involvement. So it at the same time gives us an important procedure for decision-making process. So it's a tool for decision-making process. It's a tool for decision-making process. It's a tool for decision-making process. And it helps to promote transparency, and public involvement. It promotes transparency and public involvement. These are the objectives or the needs of, these are the needs for the EIA. And now we come to the objectives. The needs for the EIA and now the objectives. What are the objectives of the EIA? The objectives of the EIA include identify, predict, evaluate the economic, social, and environmental impacts of any development activity. अब आपने देखा ये अलग से एक क्वेश्चन आया हुआ है कि आपके ऑब्जेक्टिव्स क्या है, इसलिए मैंने आपको दोनों चीजें अलग अलग करके बताई कि नीड ईआईए की क्या है और ऑब्जेक्टिव्स क्या है. तो आप जब ऑब्जेक्टिव्स देख रहे हो तो आप क्या करें, आप बेसिकली जो डेफिनेशन आपको दी गई है ईआईए की, जो यूनाइटेड नेशंस एनवायरनमेंट प्रोग्राम ने आपको डेफिनेशन दी है, उसी का खाली ये इलेबोरेशन है. तो आपको जो भी आपका मैटर रहता है उसके बियॉन्ड कुछ नहीं आता आपके क्वेश्चंस में, बट हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू राइट इट इज द ओनली डिफरेंस. एंड वंस यू नो दैट, and how does it come? It comes by practice. It comes by reading more and more. It comes by reading the newspaper for sure. So most of my today's lecture is based on two newspaper articles. One is by the Indian Express and the other is by the Wire. I will be giving you the link. Indian Express वाला link तो एक आध दिन में दूंगी, पर Wire वाले link मैं अभी क्लास के बाद आपके ग्रुप में डाल दूंगी, so that you can go into the details of this write-up which is come in the newspaper. And it's a very good write-up. तो आप अगर न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ते रहेंगे तो आपको मेरे भी लेक्चर की जरूरत नहीं है. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. So if it identifies, predicts, evaluates the economic, the social, and the development activities, then it provides information. It provides information. On the environmental consequences, for decision making. तो ये आपका एक इंफॉर्मेशन टूल है जिससे आपकी डिसीजन मेकिंग अफेक्ट होती है. These are your objectives, first and second. What is the third objective? The third objective is promotes environmentally sound and sustainable development by identifying appropriate strategies and mitigating alternatives. अगर आप इतने शब्द लिख देंगे तो एग्जामिनर आपको 10 में से 12 नंबर दे देगा. Promoting environmental sound and sustainable development by identifying appropriate strategies and mitigating alternatives. These are the objectives of the EIA. And now we come to the importance of the EIA. Why is the EIA important? I'm tired, so you're going to just write it. I'm not going to write on the board. It's a good tool for prudent environment management. Prudent क्या होता है? Cost effective. It's a good tool for prudent environment management. Okay, I'll write it. You don't worry. What is its importance? Importance में सबसे पहले आता है, it's a good tool for prudent, PRUDENT, for prudent environmental management. Okay, it's a government policy and commitment to SDG goals. A government policy, ये मैंने अपने आप से डाला government policy वाला, and commitment to SDG goals, क्योंकि यही तो सारा आइडिया है ना कि आप sustainable development goals जो वो 18 हैं उनको आप adhere करेंगे. So whether it is category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, आप सब पे adhere करेंगे. तो a government, it's a government policy and commitment to SDG goals, your sustainable development goals. Okay, then it links your environment with sustainable development. After all, this is the whole idea. It links your environment with sustainable development. Then it is the most cost-effective method to get results. It's most cost-effective method to minimize any adverse impact on the environment, to minimize adverse impact on the environment. Okay, then it helps us to prepare and to be aware about the effects or the impacts of a development project before even it gets implemented. That is the entire idea. It helps us to prepare and be aware. And be aware about a development project before it gets implemented. Then it helps us to adaptation of mitigation strategies. What is it that you will do to lessen the hardships which the people in the area are going to experience? Adaptation of mitigation strategies. Before the implementation of the project, then the development soundness of a development plan, whether it is sound or not, implementable or not, the soundness of a development plan. Whether it is within the limits of the ecosystem and can be assimilated and integrated into the system. That is one of the major highlights of the EIA, that whatever development activity that you are undertaking will result in an assimilation and integration into the ecosystem, or will it damage the ecosystem beyond repair? That is one of the most important aspects of the EIA, which you should remember. Then it proposes modified designs to reduce environmental impact. So you can propose that instead of X, you will be undertaking Y course of action. Like instead of making the building right from the floor in the Kankoli village, you propose to build it on stilts so that the environment damage is reduced. It identifies feasible alternatives. So whatever is implementable, it gives you X, Y, Z options. Once something is constructed, it cannot be changed. But before that, you can always propose things differently. So that alternative of flexibility it imparts to you. Then it predicts significant adverse impacts. If you're going to go in for linkages of the two rivers, a huge area, a tiger reserve, some 20, 30 villages will be benefited with water, but a huge number of people, the buffer and the core areas will get submerged underwater as a result of linkage of Kane and Chambal. Then it provides protection to the environment, optimum utilization of resources, identifies mitigation measures to reduce, offset, or eliminate major impacts. Then in terms of individuals, it helps to get people on board. So it is a people participative strategy. Those who get involved in decision-making process, it's much easier for them to accept the development project as you want to propose it. So finally, it also results in conflict reduction at the time of implementation of the project. So these are the positives or the importance of the EIA, which you must keep in mind whenever you are asked about its importance and why do you think you need an EIA in the present context. And now we come to the final part of our study today, which is, and we are going by the clock, we've taken only 1 hour, which is great. Now we go into the draft EIA 2020 और यही क्वेश्चन आपको लास्ट आया हुआ है कि ड्राफ्ट EIA 2020 क्या है और आप उसके बारे में क्या सोचते हैं. अब आप उसके बारे में क्या सोचेंगे जब हम आपको इनपुट बता देंगे वो आप डिसाइड कीजिएगा, but you should have a clear cut viewpoint and don't get influenced by me. Make your own decisions and what you think about the draft EIA 2020. Draft EIA 2020. Now, in draft EIA 2020, before we go into that, let me tell you that the EIA as it exists has gone into 300 alterations for the period 2011 to 2020. 2020 में तो फाइनली एक ड्राफ्ट EIA नया इन्होंने प्रपोज कर दिया है, पर उसके पहले भी ये 2006 का जो नोटिफिकेशन है इसमें 300 बार परिवर्तन किया गया है और आपका 2020 मार्च से लेकर अभी तक 33 अमेंडमेंट्स, दैट इज 33 अमेंडमेंट किए गए हैं और 33 में से 26 अमेंडमेंट, आई हैव ब्रोकन इट डाउन फॉर यू, 26 अमेंडमेंट अक्टूबर 2020 के बाद प्रपोज हुए. सो यू कैन इमेजिन द स्पीड विथ विच द EIA Institute is going into amendments one after another as a result of proper amendments or as a result of notifications of the government of India from time to time. So within a matter of 1 year, the EIA 2006 has changed its colors completely. Now, why is it all being done? It is being done under the garb of what this government says, ease of doing business. Because EIA was considered to be something which was acting like an obstacle in the path of development. And so far in 2014, the present government in its election strategy mentioned that anything which goes to the environment ministry does not come out of it until the Jayat tax is paid. Now, what is this Jayat tax? It must be in reference to Jairam Ramesh, who was at that time heading the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So according to them, this was just a stumbling block. The EIA as a statutory promulgation was a stumbling block and did not allow people to do business with ease. Keeping this in mind, the government then strategized and came out with a draft EIA 2020 in March, which was put up for public consultation but was given only 2 months. However, there were representations in the courts of Delhi, Karnataka, Kerala, and the 4 states, Delhi, Karnataka, Kerala, and one more state. It'll just come back to me right now. And finally, the court of Karnataka went ahead and said that it is not going to implement the draft EIA should it be issued as a gazette notification. But if you see, the resistance for the draft EIA has come from all non-BJP states. So Kerala, Karnataka, Delhi, everybody opposed the draft 2020 EIA, and the Delhi High Court mentioned specifically that your draft EIA is not available in regional languages, to which the government, the union went up to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court upheld the decision of the Delhi High Court, and it impinged on the union government to have a regional translation of the EIA 2020, which the government is still doing or claims to have done by now. And it says that it is now available in 22 languages. But according to the article in the newspaper, these 222 language regional translation is not available for public scrutiny. Now we will go point wise into what has been proposed in the draft EIA 2020, which is very, very disturbing. First and foremost, it says that there will be a reduced time for public hearing. A reduced time for public hearing. तो पहले पब्लिक हियरिंग के लिए आपका स्टेज था ना EIA में, जो आपको लिखा था कि पब्लिक हियरिंग होती है, द सेवेंथ और द आई थिंक द सेवेंथ स्टेज. तो जो पब्लिक हियरिंग होगी उसका जो नंबर ऑफ डेज है वो 30 दिन से 20 दिन को रिड्यूस कर दिया गया है. द पब्लिक हियरिंग हैज बीन रिड्यूस्ड फ्रॉम 30 to 20 days. That is the first thing which has happened as a result of the draft EIA 2020. Now, people, the environmentalists are crying horse over it because they say that 20 दिन में किसको पता भी चलेगा कि कोई EIA प्रपोज हो रहा है, कि कोई डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में बात की जा रही है. और ज्यादा करके जिस जगह डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट आता है या मॉडर्नाइजेशन का प्रोजेक्ट आता है, वहां पे पुअर पीपल होते हैं जो एजुकेटेड नहीं है, जिनके पास की कोई आपकी स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट टेक्नोलॉजी अवेलेबल नहीं है, आपके पास मोबाइल भी अवेलेबल नहीं है ठीक ठाक. तो आप कैसे किसी भी मोबाइल के ऊपर जो भी डेटा आ रहा है या कोई वेबसाइट के ऊपर आपको अपने डिटेल्स जो अवेलेबल है उसको कैसे कोई जवाब दे पाएगा. So that is the first thing which is against the draft EIA 2020, that it reduces the period of public hearing from 30 to 20 days. Then the second one, which in my opinion is a very important one, it is the exemption of projects. अभी तक ये था कि जो कैटेगरी ए में आ रहे हैं प्रोजेक्ट्स वो, और जो कैटेगरी B1 में आ रहे हैं वो एग्जेम्प्ट नहीं होंगे EIA से, खाली कैटेगरी B2 वाले एग्जेम्प्ट होंगे. तो जो कैटेगरी B2 था उसको गवर्नमेंट ने 4-fold बढ़ा दिया. You understand? To dilute the process of EIA, it has increased the number of projects which are to be included under the category of B2, requiring no environmental clearances. And what are these projects which will be included under B2? These include offshore and online oil, gas, and shale exploration. I repeat, offshore and online oil, gas, and shale exploration. Hydroelectric projects up to 25 watts, up to 25 megawatts. Hydroelectric projects up to 25 megawatts. Irrigation projects between 2,000 to 10,000 hectares of command area. Small and medium-sized cement plants. Acids other than phosphorus or ammonia and sulfuric acid. SMEs in dye and dye intermediaries, bulk drugs, synthetic rubbers, medium-sized plant units. All of these do not require any EIA. All inland waterway projects, expansion or widening of highways between 25 kilometers to 100 kilometers within the defined parameters. These also include roads that are going to be cutting through forests, aerial ropeways in ecologically sensitive area, and specified building construction area development projects up to the limit of 1,50,000 square meters. इतनी सारी चीजें EIA 2020 ने एग्जेम्प्ट कर दी है EIA से, और ये सब की सब B2 कैटेगरी में आ रही है। और जो ये वाला पैरामीटर है, स्पेसिफाइड बिल्डिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन एरिया डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट बिल्ट अप एरिया अप टू 1,50,000 स्क्वायर मीटर्स, ये 2016 में ही नोटिफिकेशन गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने निकाला था बिफोर दिस EIA, पर मार्च 2017 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसको डिसमिस कर दिया था और कहा था कि दिस कैन नॉट बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड। इवन देन इन्होंने इसको ड्राफ्ट EIA 2020 में इंक्लूड किया है। इसके अलावा इनका ये भी कहना है कि जो कलेक्शन ऑफ बेसलाइन डेटा है वो भी रिक्वायर्ड नहीं होगा B2 प्रोजेक्ट्स में। सो B2 प्रोजेक्ट इज इंटायरली इन द हैंड्स ऑफ द प्रोपोनेंट्स, उसके लिए हम और आप कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते। सो द फर्स्ट इज रिड्यूस टाइम फॉर पब्लिक हियरिंग, second is exemption of projects, and I've listed to you all that which is going to fall into the B2 category. Then third is पोस्ट क्लियरेंस कंप्लायंस। इसमें कोई नेगेटिव बात नहीं है। पोस्ट क्लियरेंस कंप्लायंस का मीनिंग ये है कि एक बार कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट अगर इंप्लीमेंट कर दिया गया है, उसको इंप्लीमेंट करने के बाद जो भी उस पर टिप्पणी की गई या वॉट एवर मॉडिफिकेशंस हैव बीन प्रपोज्ड, those need to be adhered to. So it says that once a project gets approved by the concerned authority, the proponent projects are required to adhere to the rules laid down in the EIA report and ensure that there are no environmental damages. So this is a good part of the EIA 2020. फिर fourth है annual submission of reports. अब new draft EIA में जो submission report या compliance report होती थी वो पहले 6 months पे होती थी 2006 के EIA के हिसाब से, बट 2020 के ड्राफ्ट में इसको एनुअल सबमिशन कर दिया गया। तो लोगों का क्या कहना है कि जो भी प्रोपोनेंट है प्रोजेक्ट का वो सारी चीजें वायलेट कर लेगा और उसको छुपा लेगा और फिर साल भर के बाद अपनी रिपोर्ट सबमिट कर देगा। तो एन एनुअल रिपोर्ट सबमिशन इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी टू लॉन्ग अ पीरियड टू टेक अ assessment or to assess the environmental damages as a result of a development project. Fifth कहते हैं कि the report is to be prepared solely by the project proponents. इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि जो प्रोजेक्ट के प्रोपोनेंट्स है या जो एनवायरमेंटल कंसल्टेंट है वो अकेले ही इस रिपोर्ट को बनाएगा और सबमिट करेगा। इस रिपोर्ट में किसी और का हस्तक्षेप नहीं होगा। मतलब आप अपनी रिपोर्ट कार्ड खुद लिख रहे हैं, तो आप अगर आपको मौका दिया जाए कि आप अपनी यूपीएससी की मार्कशीट बनाइए तो आप हर कोई अपने को इतना ही नंबर देगा ना कि आप एग्जाम पास कर जाएं। वही स्थिति EIA 2020 में की गई कि आपसे कहा जा रहा है कि आप अपनी रिपोर्ट अकेले और खुद ही बनाएंगे। फिर उसके बाद देयर इज नो पब्लिक रिपोर्टिंग फॉर नॉन कंप्लायंस। दिस इज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट ड्रॉबैक्स ऑफ द EIA 2020. It means that if there is any violation which is taking place and the public is reporting about that violation, the government or the impact assessment agencies will not take cognition of it. Yes, I repeat, any public complaint with regard to violation for these projects will not be taken into cognition. For the government to take action against a violator, either the violator himself, मतलब आप खुद ही बताइए कि आपने एग्जाम में चीटिंग करी है, तभी गवर्नमेंट आपके अगेंस्ट एक्शन लेगी, और या तो जो इम्पैक्ट एजेंसीज है गवर्नमेंट की, चाहे सेंटर हो चाहे स्टेट, वो डिसाइड करेंगी कि आपने किसी चीज को वायलेट किया है क्या। तो कंट्रोल पोल्यूशन बोर्ड आपको बता देगा, ग्रीन ट्राइब्यूनल आपको बता देगा, तभी ये सरकार मानेगी कि आपने कुछ गलती करी, या आप खुद से बताएंगे कि हमने गलती कर दी, अब आप हमें पनिशमेंट दीजिए। दिस इज अगेन अनदर part of the draft EIA 2020. And then with the draconian law and the major part of EIA, which has brought the greatest criticism to this amendment or to this draft, is post facto clearance of environmental projects. Now, in post facto clearance of environmental projects में क्या है कि आपने कोई भी डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट को इम्प्लीमेंट कर दिया, उसके कुछ दिन बाद आप सरकार के पास गए और आप कहते हैं कि हमसे गलती हो गई है, हमने एक डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट को इम्प्लीमेंट कर दिया है और ये हमसे गलतियां हुई, मतलब हमने इतना एनवायरमेंट को डैमेज कर दिया है और हमने इतने पैसे एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ एनवायरमेंट डैमेज पर डे कमाए हैं। आपके हिसाब से फिर सरकार आपके ऊपर पेनल्टी लगा देगी और फिर आपको रेगुलेट कर देगी, मतलब आपको एक एनवायरमेंटल क्लियरेंस मिल जाएगा। इसीलिए सेक्शन 3 को सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कोट किया है, एंड आई विल कोट यू दैट सो दैट यू कैन राइट इट डाउन when you write your answer, giving an assessment of what is the environmental impact assessment draft 2020. That I will quote it to you so you can write. So it means that there will be a penalty for firms, जो कि मान लीजिए आप कह रहे हैं कि आपने environmental damage कुछ 25% किया है और आप करीब 2 से 10,000 रुपया पर डे एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ इट कमा रहे हैं। मान लीजिए कि आप सैंड ड्रेजिंग के काम में लगे हुए हैं और आप एक सैंड माफिया हैं और जो कि रिवर बेड से रोज सैंड को चुरा रहा है, तो आपके ऊपर 2,000 से 10,000 की पेनल्टी पड़े की क्या मीनिंग है? कोई मीनिंग नहीं है। सो व्हाट द EIA हैज डन इज दैट इट हैज मेड द एंटायर EIA ग्रीन लॉ redundant, मतलब उसको एकदम खत्म कर दिया। It has no teeth at all. That is what the EIA 2020 has done. As a result of this, what are the repercussions? It has opened floodgates of violation. अगर पब्लिक आपके अगेंस्ट रिपोर्ट नहीं कर सकती, अगर आप खुद को अपना रिपोर्ट कार्ड बना रहे हैं, अगर आप खुद अपने खिलाफ कंप्लेंट रजिस्टर करेंगे या कोई गवर्नमेंट की एजेंसी कंप्लेंट रजिस्टर करेगी, तभी आपके खिलाफ एक्शन लिया जाएगा। तो इसका मतलब क्या है? आप कितने भी वायलेशन करते जाइए, एवरीथिंग इज जस्टिफाइड। इसका मीनिंग ये हुआ। सेकेंड, कोई एक छोटी सी पेनाल्टी लगा करके आपको एनवायरमेंटल क्लियरेंस मिल जाएगा। विल यू एवर बॉदर देन टू मेंटेन द एनवायरमेंट? यू विल नेवर बॉदर दैट। सो ultimately what is happening is that the environment is getting degraded, as a result of which we are losing so much of our ecosystem. तो ये जितनी आपने inland waterways के system देखे, a project by नितिन गडकरी, आपने broadening of roads forest area में देखा, another project by Nitin Gadkari. You have seen all these metro projects in cities coming up, another project by Nitin Gadkari. All these have resulted in huge cutting of trees, and there has been no substitute for it so far. So we are entering a world of concrete at the cost of polluting the river, the air, and losing our green cover adversely. So these are the negative impacts if the EIA 2020 is implemented as it is. But like I told you, even before it gets a Gazette notification, we have already gone into 33 amendments of 2006, which one way or the other are implementing the draft EIA 2020. I hope you are clear about what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that even draft 2020 is not implemented, but it doesn't matter. The government is going ahead by issuing notifications or amending the notification of 2006 as per its own wish. तो इस वजह से बहुत सा बदलाव तो ऑलरेडी हो ही चुका है. But these are what is the EIA 2020 has also propagated. Now, reduced time means reduced awareness. If you are saying that for public hearing, you're only going to give 20 days, then it means the public at large will not be informed. And we must remember that as an economy, we are still a developing economy where more than 40% of the population is uneducated. It also means that we have no care and concern for the indigenous or the tribal people of our country, because most of the projects of mining, of creating hydroelectric projects, of creating any kind of development project comes in the backward areas which are being occupied by the tribals. Then, of course, there is the overall picture. The last class which I took was on climate change, and we talked about the Glasgow Convention, where government of India has gone forward and said that by 2030 वो 50% अपने emissions कम कर देगी, 2070 तक कोल का यूज बंद कर देगी, और पता नहीं क्या क्या वो 2030 तक करेगी. बट 2030 तक इस तरह के EIA को प्रोपोगेट करके तो इंडिया इनमें से कुछ भी नहीं कर पाएगी. इसलिए कहा जा रहा है कि जो ये कागजों में लिख के आ रहा है और जो इम्प्लीमेंट किया जाएगा, दोनों में there is a state of cognitive dissonance. What the government propagates as its commitment at the at the global level has nothing got to do with what the policy it is propagating at the state and at the central level. These are some of the drawbacks of the EIA 2020. So I was saying that there were 4 courts which put a stay on on draft EIA 2020. So one was Delhi, the other was Karnataka, the other was Kerala, and the fourth was Madras. These were the 4 which said that it is not possible to implement EIA 2020. Now, other than this, it also says that there are certain strategic projects which will not come under EIA. अब strategic projects EIA के पास कौन-कौन से हैं? वो जो डिफेंस से रिलेटेड होते हैं या जो हमारी सिक्योरिटी से रिलेटेड होते हैं. बट इसमें तो ये भी कहा गया है कि जो प्रोजेक्ट्स लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल से 100 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर हैं, उनको भी EIA की जरूरत नहीं है. तो अगर कोई डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट नॉर्थ ईस्ट स्टेट्स में आएगा, जो कि हमसे हमारे सबसे बायोडाइवर्सिटी रिच स्टेट्स हैं, अगर वहां पे कोई सड़क बनाई जाएगी या वहां पे कोई हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक प्रोजेक्ट लगाया जाएगा, तो उसमें हम और आप किसी भी प्रकार की हस्तक्षेप नहीं कर सकते. हम और आप क्या, वहां के लोग भी हस्तक्षेप नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि inverted commas, it is strategically important for the government to implement. So all these parameters which have been implemented so far are with the concept of what is called ease of doing business. Now, I want you to know that the 7 changes, the 33 changes which have come up after October 2020, when the government of India asked CSIR and NERA, which is your National Energy. 1 minute, I'll just tell you the full form of NERA. उसको तो आपको लिख के बताना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो आपसे गलती हो जाएगी. This is your CSIR, और ये the PMO office said in September 2020 that CSIR and NEER. और NEER आपका क्या है? NEER है आपका National Environmental Engineering Research Institute. I repeat, CSIR and National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, NEERI was given the task of collecting of the data or all that the public had to say about EIA 2020 and to process it and let the government of India know what the public thinks about EIA 2020. तो जब ये सितंबर 2020 में ये काम CSIR और NEERI को सौंपा गया, तब से लेकर के अभी तक 33 अमेंडमेंट्स 2006 के ड्राफ्ट में किए जा चुके हैं, और गवर्नमेंट ने कहा है कि ये सब करने की इसलिए जरूरत है because it is strategically important, because it helps in the ease of doing business, and of course it helps a sagging economy which has suffered due to the COVID repercussions. तो इसके तहत जो 33 changes गवर्नमेंट ने प्रपोज किए, उसके बारे में थोड़ी सी जानकारी आपको दे दूं. The total changes made are 33, out of which COVID related changes are 7, which are basically related to process of pharma related articles. So किसी भी दवा का उत्पादन तेजी से करना है तो उसके लिए आपको बेसलाइन डेटा की जरूरत नहीं. आपने फटाफट फैबीफ्लू का इतना ज्यादा प्रोडक्शन कैसे हुआ? इस वजह से हो पाया क्योंकि सरकार ने कह दिया इसमें हम कोई EIA नहीं लेंगे, हम सीधे ही दवा बनाएंगे. फिर सेक्टर वाइज स्पेसिफिक रेगुलेशंस, कोल का इस्तेमाल थर्मल पावर प्लांट्स में, माइनिंग, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, लीनियर प्रोजेक्ट्स मतलब रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन, इनके 6 तरह के अमेंडमेंट किए गए. फिर एक्सपर्ट पैनल और स्टेट अथॉरिटीज में कौन प्रेजेंट रहेगा कौन नहीं, इसको लेकर के 7 एग्जेम्पशंस गवर्नमेंट ने लिए और कहा कि जो लोग ऑलरेडी इस पैनल में अवेलेबल है वही कंटिन्यू करेंगे. तो उनके जितने यस मैन थे वो कंटिन्यू कर गए. फिर देयर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट एनवायरमेंटल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. आपने कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी तो सुना है. कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी में क्या होता है कि कोई भी प्राइवेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अपने पास कुछ फंड रखती है और हमारे जैसे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को जो NGO बेस्ड होते हैं उनको कंट्रीब्यूट करती है, या गवर्नमेंट के किसी डिपार्टमेंट को, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल रेलवे को बहुत सारी व्हील चेयर मिलती है, बहुत सारे वाटर फिल्टर्स दिए जाते हैं, बेंचेस दी जाती हैं, जो बड़ी बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस अपने CSR फंड में देती हैं. तो यू शेयर द सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द कंट्री and therefore it's called corporate social responsibility. The government has now come up with this concept of कॉर्पोरेट एनवायरमेंटल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, मतलब बड़ी बड़ी पोल्यूटिंग इंडस्ट्रीज हमें पैसे देंगी और कहेंगी अब आप एनवायरमेंट को कंट्रोल करिए। सो दैट इसके अंडर में 3 अमेंडमेंट्स हुए, जो मैं आपको लिंक शेयर करूंगी इस न्यूज़पेपर आर्टिकल का, उसमें ये सारे डिटेल दिए हुए हैं, आप चाहें तो उसमें से भी पढ़ सकते हैं। फिर एग्जेम्पशन फ्रॉम अप्रेजल स्टेज, जो अप्रेजल की जो स्टेज है उससे एग्जेम्प्ट किया गया है बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स को, इसमें 2 प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, और पोस्ट फैक्टो क्लियरेंस 2 प्रोजेक्ट्स को दिया गया है। फिर क्लियरेंस एंड कंप्लायंस प्रोसेस में चेंज 6 प्रकार से किए गए, either at the statutory clearance stage or the compliance monitoring stage, and in the EIA process itself में 4 changes इस गवर्नमेंट ने implement किए हैं ever since October 2020. These are some of the things which need to be highlighted. Now, before I finally conclude, I want you to just hear me out that on the 1st of April, the Supreme Court said that any kind of ex post facto environmental clearance is contrary to the environmental law. I repeat, and this you have to quote when you write your answer, because how will you then substantiate कि EIA 2020 ठीक नहीं है? आप तो ये नहीं कह सकते ना कि मैं कह रहा हूं कि ये गलत है, ऐसा नहीं होता। आपको अपने आर्ग्यूमेंट को क्रिटिकली एग्जामिन करना पड़ता है। क्रिटिकल एग्जामिनेशन में इट इज ऑलवेज गुड टू राइट what a dignified statutory body of the government itself is saying. So there can be nothing more dignified than the Supreme Court saying that this cannot be an environmental law. Any post facto clearance is contrary to the environmental law, and it says that environmental law cannot countenance, I repeat, environmental law cannot countenance the notion of an ex post facto clearance. इसका क्या मतलब हुआ कि कोई भी environmental law ये accept कैसे कर सकता है कि मेरे को आपने पहले ही खराब कर दिया और खराब करने के बाद आप मुझसे क्लियरेंस ले रहे आ रहे हैं। काउंटेनेंस का मतलब होता है एक्सेप्टेंस। देयर कैन बी नो एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ अ पोस्ट फैक्टो क्लियरेंस इन एनी एनवायरमेंटल लॉ। Then the Supreme Court further goes on to say that the EIA notification under its Section 3 under the Environmental Protection Act 1986 imposes restriction on setting up of new projects or expansion or modernization of existing projects. The section further stipulates, और ये लाइन इंपॉर्टेंट है क्योंकि पहली वाली तो आपने जो स्टैटिक इंफॉर्मेशन में उसमें मैंने आपको पढ़ा दिया कि जो इसका सेक्शन 3 है वो ये कहता है कि ये सारे उन प्रोजेक्ट से EIA उन प्रोजेक्ट में लगाया जाएगा जो कि मॉडर्नाइजेशन से या एक्सपेंशन से रिलेटेड है, वहां तक तो ठीक है। बट इसी सेक्शन में ये स्टिपुलेट किया जाता है कि सच मेजर्स विल बेनिफिट द एनवायरमेंट। तो कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट आप अंडरटेक करेंगे तो वो आप तभी अंडरटेक कर सकते हैं जबकि वो एनवायरमेंट को बेनिफिशियल होगा। कोई चीज जो पोस्ट फैक्टो क्लियरेंस के लिए आती है वो बेनिफिशियल कैसे हो सकती है, ऐसा सुप्रीम कोर्ट का कहना है। सो इन इट्स जजमेंट ऑन 1st April, the Supreme Court says that for any action of the central government to be treated as a measure referable to Section 3, मतलब अगर सरकार कह रही है कि हम सेक्शन 3 के अंडर जो कि EIA का सेक्शन है उसके अंडर कोई चीज या कोई बदलाव लाना चाहते हैं तो वो तभी एक्सेप्टेबल होगा जबकि वो स्टैट्यूटरी रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ इज नेसेसरी for the purpose of protecting and improving the quality of the environment and preventing, controlling and abating environmental pollution. इस लाइन को आप प्लीज इसी तरह से लिख लीजिए। सुप्रीम कोर्ट अपने जजमेंट में ये कह रहा है कि अगर सेक्शन 3 के अंडर सरकार किसी भी प्रकार का परिवर्तन लाना चाहती है तो वो परिवर्तन सिर्फ तभी इंप्लीमेंट हो सकता है या तभी एक्सेप्ट हो सकता है जबकि वो एनवायरनमेंट को किसी प्रकार से या तो इंप्रूव करे या उसके पोल्यूशन को प्रिवेंट करे या कंट्रोल करे या अबेट करे। Either it will prevent or control or abate the environmental pollution, only then can it be acceptable for implementation. सुप्रीम कोर्ट के इस जजमेंट के बाद सरकार ने बहुत सारे नोटिफिकेशंस इशू कर दिए, बहुत सारे अमेंडमेंट्स इशू कर दिए 2006 के नोटिफिकेशन में, जो कि मैं आपको बता चुकी हूँ कि 33 अमेंडमेंट्स हो चुके हैं, बट अभी तक ड्राफ्ट नोटिफिकेशन 2006 इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हो पाया है. With this, we conclude EIA. The class for today is done. Any queries, please post in your Telegraph group. I will send you the link of the first article. The second article from where I was reading this out to you is from the Indian Express, and I will give you its link on Monday when I go back to office. Right for now, if there are any queries, post, ask your questions, go through the questions of EIA, and then superimpose this lecture on it. I would have answered all the questions which have come in the previous years. Still, if you feel that something's being left out, you can always come back to me. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.